Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Troy City Council for Monday, June 21st, 2021. It is 7 p.m. My name is William Lutz, President of Council. We will begin tonight with an invocation and a Pledge of Allegiance led by our newest member, Mr. Whidden. Please rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today marks the 76th anniversary of the ending of the Battle of Okinawa on June 21st, 1945. I invoke the memory of the more than 20,000 American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that gave their lives during the 2.5-month-long battle to secure the freedoms we enjoy today as we conduct the work of our city. At least we need even more reminding of the cost of war. We should also recall the 110,000 Japanese that also lost their lives during the battle. It is striking, though, that to enter the council chambers here tonight, we pass art and artifacts of our sister city of Takahashi, Japan. A very real reminder that even the bitterest of enemies can let go of the past and move forward again in friendship and cooperation. I would hope that the men and women who gave their lives in Okinawa would welcome this revelation. So let us move forward tonight, reminded anew of the sacrifices given for our freedoms in Okinawa, and with the courage to move past old transgressions and form new bonds of friendship with even once bitter enemies. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Whidden. Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Swayzer.
Here.
Mr. Rozelle.
Here.
Mrs. Snee. Here. Mr. Whidden.
here.
Mr. Twist.
Here.
Mr. Sievert.
Here.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Here.
Mr. Schilling.
Present.
Mr. Phillips.
Present.
All members of council are present.
Wonderful. Mrs. Knight, will you please read a summary of the minutes of the June 7th, 2021 meeting of Troy City Council?
Minutes of council, June 7, 2021. Committee reports. Buildings and Utilities Committee recommended legislation be prepared bidding for a HVAC replacement system at the Police Department. Community and Economic Development Committee recommended legislation be prepared accepting final plat Fox Harbor Section 8, acceptance of utility easements associated with the Waco warehouse, approving a revised final record plan of Phase 3 of the Villas of Halifax subdivision, and recommended legislation regarding the Strayer Farms, Inc. annexation. Community Partnerships Committee recommended legislation be prepared regarding the Tour de Donut, authorizing an agreement with Can't Stop Running, an agreement with Troy Main Street, and notwithstanding legislation. Finance Committee recommended legislation be prepared, estimating aggregate amount of public funds to be awarded as deposit, a subordination agreement for the Slimline Surgical Devices loan, a new loan to Smith's Boathouse, and a loan to 107 West Main LLC. Streets and Sidewalks Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing final assessment Phase 12 of sidewalk program and approving a petition to vacate a portion of Arlington Avenue. Personnel Committee reported regarding appointments and reappointments to the City Beautification Committee, which were then approved. Resolution number R18, 2021, contract for Police Department outside air replacement project, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R19, 2021, regarding the Strayer Farms, Inc. annexation, and that would be the statement of services, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R2021, also regarding Strayer Farms, Inc. annexation, buffering statement was given first reading and was adopted. Resolution number R2121, accepting the Strayer Farms, Inc. annexation, first reading and adopted. Resolution R22, maximum amount of public funds to be awarded, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R23, application of Smith's Boathouse for loan from Small Business Development Revolving Loan Fund, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R24, 2021, application of 107 West Main for loan assistance was given first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 034, 2021, final plat Fox Harbor Section 8, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 035, 2021, easements along Archer Drive, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 036, 2021, revised final record plan Phase 3 Villas of Halifax, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 037, 2021, use of public areas for the 2021 Tour de Donut event, first reading and adopted. Ordinance 38, 2021, use of public areas for the Donut Jam event, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 030, 2021, a lien subordination for slimline surgical devices, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 040, 2021, assessment of sidewalks, Phase 12, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 040, 2021, vacating portion of Arlington Avenue, first reading and adopted. Following comments, council adjourned at 7:51 p.m.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. How's council wish to dispose of the minutes? Second. It's been moved to approve the minutes by Mr. Rozell, seconded by Mr. Schilling. Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rozell?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Whidden?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. We're moving on to committee reports. We have one report this evening from the Parks and Recreation Committee and Mr. Schilling. Mr. Schilling, go ahead.
Thank you. This committee met on June 14th to consider the recommendation of the Board of Park Commissioners to name a new prairie reserve of approximately 40 acres that will be created on the north parcels of Duke Park. This recognizes the generosity of Pat and Tom Robinson associated with the Prairie Reserve and with Duke Park since the mid-1990s. We concur with the assessment of the board that such naming meets the criteria set forth in council's policy for the naming of city facilities. It is the recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared to name the approximately 40 acres of Prairie Reserve on the north parcels of Duke Park, the Robinson Reserve at Duke Park. This is respectively submitted by Mr. Phillips, Mr. Twilliger, and myself as chair.
Thank you, Mr. Schilling. Are there any comments or questions on the report? Seeing none, we'll move on to citizen comments for items on the agenda. We have one resolution and two ordinances for discussion this evening. If you wish to address council on any of those items, you're welcome to come to the podium, give your name and address. You have 2 minutes to address council on any items you might have with those. Seeing none, we'll move into resolutions. Mrs. Knight, will you please read resolution R29, 2021?
R25,
Is it 25? R25.
resolution number R25, 2021. Resolution naming a prairie reserve at the Paul G. Duke Park as the Robinson Reserve at Duke Park. This has been recommended by the Troy Park Board, first reading.
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved to suspend the three reading rule by Mr. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Sievert. Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Whidden?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell?
Yes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
The three reading rule has been suspended. It's been moved to adopt the resolution by Mr. Phillips, seconded by Mr. Schwazer. Are there any final comments or questions? Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Whidden?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. Moving on to ordinances. Mrs. Knight, will you please read ordinance 042, 2021?
Ordinance number 042, 2021. Ordinance amending ordinance number 056, 2020, appropriating funds necessary for the various departments and offices of the city of Troy, Ohio for the year 2021. This is the first routine reappropriation based on information provided by the city auditor. First reading.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. How's council wish to move?
Move to suspend. Second.
It's been moved to suspend the three reading rule by Mr. Schwazer, seconded by Mr. Twist. Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell?
Yes.
Mrs. Snead?
Yes.
Mr. Whidden?
Yes.
Move to adopt. Second.
The three reading rule has been suspended. It's been moved to adopt the ordinance by Mr. Schwazer, seconded by Mr. Twist. Any final comments or questions? Mrs. Knight, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Whidden,
Yes.
Mr. Twist.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. Mrs. Knight, will you please read ordinance 043, 2021?
Ordinance number 043, 2021, ordinance amending the amended general plan of the Troy Christian Schools Education and Performing Arts Facility Plan Development, PDR, in the city of Troy, Ohio, and rezoning a 0.764 acre parcel added to this plan development as a part of the amended general plan from R5 Single Family Residential Zoning District to a Residential Plan Development, PDR. This has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission. There will be a public hearing at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. Given the fact that there will be a public hearing at the next council meeting on July 6th, this will stand as the first reading and it will be held over for future readings. Moving on to communications and announcements. Mrs. Knight, are there any?
No, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Knight. Moving on to comments of officials, Mayor Oda.
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Director of Public Service and Safety, Mr. Titterington.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Titterington. Director of Law, Mr. Kerber.
I have nothing. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. It's old habit, old habit.
I understand. Our city auditor is not here with us tonight, Mr. Friggy. I will make an announcement. I do believe that city offices will be closed on July 5th in observance of Independence Day.
That is correct.
That is correct.
We will be on schedule, but thank you.
But trash pickup will remain the same? Trash pickup will remain the same. Okay, thank you. Any comments from council members this evening? Mr. Seaver?
See if this works. Is that better? This past Saturday, the Human Relations Commission, in conjunction with a number of other sponsors and volunteers, held the first Juneteenth walk and celebration. I know a number of faces were there in the audience. It was a very well-attended event, and I publicly thanked Sonia Hollycross, Salome, and Sue Knight, and I would like to do that again. They went beyond their level of duty to put that together, working here on Saturday at 2:30, I think I was getting text from Sue, 2 o'clock or something like that. So it was a great event, very well received, very well attended, somewhere in the neighborhood north of 1,200 people throughout the day. And I just want to say thanks for everyone that participated in it, and next year will hopefully be bigger and better.
Thank you, Mr. Seaver. It was a wonderful event. Any other comments from council members? Seeing none, we will, any staff members have any comments this evening? We'll open on comments to the general public. If you wish to address council on any concern you have, you're more than welcome to come to the podium, give your name and address, and take as much time as you wish to consume.
Good evening, President Lutz, members of council. My name is Bradley Barron, 105 Crestwood. I want to piggyback on what Councilmember Seifert said. Excellent job Saturday. I think we should be proud of our Human Relations Commission. I think they had, less than 3 months, was it, to pull all this off?
About, yeah.
And they did a heck of a job. You all should be proud of them. I know I am. Along those lines, we heard a council report, or committee report earlier tonight, and we heard a resolution which was passed naming a portion of Duke Park for the Robinsons. I don't have a problem with that personally. I don't know them. They're obviously very good philanthropists for the city of Troy. We named a park for them. That's all well and good. I don't have a problem with that. But what I would like to challenge this council to do going forward when it comes to naming public spaces and streets and so on and so forth is I think our Human Relations Commission deserves a seat at the table when it comes to that. We have a Human Relations Commission that is charged with certain things, and I have not read the charge report. I don't know it ad verbatim, but I honestly think that they should have a seat at the table when it comes to naming streets. And I don't know if, when was it, about a month ago, Mr. Sivert, we had that meeting over at Hobart, the Bravo Room, with the at-large council members. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? Somebody made a comment that a street or something ought to be named for Lucille Wheat, and that is something I agree with. I never knew the lady, but from what I understand about her, she was very well liked and well respected in this community, did a lot for this community. So I would just like to challenge you, the city council going forward, to take a look at the naming policy and maybe offer the Human Relations Commission a seat at the table. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Barringer. Any other residents wish to come to address council on any topic?
Hello, my name is Chris Harshbarger. I live at 2717 Southside Drive here in Troy, Ohio. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to come and bring our concerns before you. 2 weeks ago, I came up here and spoke about making Troy, Ohio a sanctuary city for the unborn. I also sent emails via the website to most of you, I believe, and I really appreciate the feedback I got from a couple of you. That really means a lot. Thank you. I know your time is very valuable. I don't want to take up a bunch of it, but I do appreciate you getting back and mention that you're reaching out to the other city, Lebanon, to get a copy of their ordinance. I appreciate you taking this seriously. This week will be no different. I'm still calling to make the city of Troy, Ohio, a sanctuary city for the unborn. This world has been crazy over the last year or so. We've seen 2020 and all that it has become and is still becoming. I do not want to become another problem for you. We all have enough going on in our lives. But I'm also not asking you to do anything that's outside of your jurisdiction or something that hasn't been done in other places. I'm simply asking you to protect the freedoms of those who live in the city of Troy. Troy is a fairly conservative city as far as cities go. Most will identify as pro-life. And there isn't even an abortion clinic within the city limits of Troy yet. From an outsider's view looking in, this looks like a fairly easy win. Maybe I'm missing something. But if you won't stand for this, then how can we trust you to stand for our freedoms when tyranny and injustice come to the city of Troy? I've been in contact with local state lawmakers and lawyers who specialize in this type of law, making murder illegal. And they are willing to help. I hope to have more information to be able to give to the council soon on all this. But I want to leave you with this. If you've ever wondered where you would have stood during World War II, if you were called upon to protect the Jews from the Nazi Holocaust, or if you've ever wondered what you would have done in America pre the Civil War if asked to protect a slave, get them up north, I have good news for you. You get to find out how you would have done. This is our moment to do something like that, to protect those who are made in the image of God, just like we all are. And through repentance and faith, we get fellowship with Him. But we as people, those people had their time to do the next right thing. We could pretend and say we could go back and this is what we would have done, but now we have our moment and our point in time to do what is right, to do the next right thing. Will this stop all abortions? Probably not. No more than helping one slave through the Underground Railroad make it north. But we can do the next right thing. Maybe this starts the movement, maybe not. But you will know how you would have stood. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other residents wishing to come to address council on any topic that they wish? Seeing none, we will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you for attending. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, July 6th at 7 o'clock right here in council chambers.